Give me 10 seconds and then we'll be live.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
We're live now, Chair.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Governance and Resources Committee meeting. I'll say that again, Governance and Resources. Get my teeth in first. We are doing this under Zoom again, as everybody can see. It is there out live, it's streaming live, so please can I remind everybody to be aware of that, of what we're saying, and we are in the public eye. And let's hope we have a good meeting. I do not intend to be having any breaks. The break will be when we're finished. So we're going to push on and get this meeting done. I will be running it as I've done before, taking questions after the report, and I will stipulate it is a question and not a leading question, unless question, and then we will move on to debate. Thank you for that. I will move on to the first item on the agenda of apologies. Thank you.
Chair, I've received apologies from Councillor Cruz and Councillor Sutton.
Thank you. And I myself had an email stating Councillor Raw was not available today. Are there anybody else of knowledge? Okay.
Just to confirm, after the council meeting on 26th of November, Councillor Raw ceased to be a member of the committee because she was appointed by the lay group, of which she's no longer a member. So, right. You know, we note that in terms of her circumstances, but she isn't a member of the committee now. Okay,
thank you for making that clear. Right, from that then, can we just have a quick roll call, please? Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Allison?
Here.
Councillor Archer?
Here.
Councillor Bowl?
Here.
Councillor Buttle?
Here.
Councillor Chapman?
Here.
Councillor Donnelly?
Here.
I've not seen Councillor Elliott. Is Councillor Elliott here? No. Councillor Flitter?
Here.
Councillor Hill?
Here.
Councillor Hobson?
Here.
Councillor Morley?
Here.
Councillor Purdy?
Here.
Councillor Ratcliffe?
Here.
Councillor Slack?
Here.
That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Elliott's not waiting in the background, no. No. Okay, well, thank you very much. Public participation, have we got any?
With no public participation this evening, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 3, members' interests. Has anybody got any interest to declare? Councillor Chapman, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I declare a pecuniary interest in item number 4 as we receive the mandatory local restriction support grant closed.
Thank you for that. Are there any other declarations? Then I'm going to make my declaration. I too am declaring a pecuniary interest on item 4 because I run a business and obviously I have received the grants as well. So with that, I shall, and myself and Councillor Chapman will be moving from the meeting and we're handing over to James to continue the time being. Thank you.
So members, we now move to agenda item 4, which is COVID-19 business support grants, Derbyshire Dales additional restrictions grant. As the chair and vice chair have declared interest and had to leave the meeting, it's now necessary for us to take nominations for a member to chair this item of business. So can I receive a nomination, please?
I nominate Councillor Purdy as chair.
Seconded.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Councillor Morley. Can we proceed to the vote then, please?
Councillor Allison. Councillor Allison.
Sorry, are we voting now?
We're voting on the chair. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. For.
Councillor Archer.
For.
Councillor Bull, he's not here. Councillor Buttle.
4.
Councillor Donnelly.
4.
Councillor Flitter.
4.
Councillor Hill.
4.
Councillor Hobson.
4.
Councillor Morley.
4.
Councillor Purdy.
4.
Councillor Ratcliffe.
4.
Councillor Slack. Councillor Slack.
4.
That's unanimous.
Thank you, Jason. So, Councillor Purdy, you can now take the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and thank you, members, for your confidence in me chairing this item on this agenda. So it is item 4, and it's the COVID-19 business support grants, local restriction support grants, and additional restriction grant. And I believe Steve Capes is leading this. Is that right, Steve?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. And good evening, members. The business grants that we're dealing with at the moment are relatively complex. Just to give you some context, over the spring and summer this year, we had over a 6-month period, we dealt with 2 sets of business grants. In the last, in fact, 6 weeks since the start of November, we're now into 5 sets of new grants that we have to pay. And they are outlined in the report for you there. The initial one, by way of background, was the grant for the lockdown period for the businesses, which was a lot of businesses required to close in the period during November. As an update to members, we have, by the end of today, paid 837 of those, and by tomorrow we will have paid another 59. So in together, that's almost 900 lockdown grants paid since we started doing that about 3 weeks ago. The additional restrictions grant, which is the policy that's before you tonight, that is a discretionary grant, and that is almost ready to launch. We will be inviting those who have registered an interest in that grant as part of the same application process for the other grants. In fact, some of them have been invited already to apply, and others will be invited to make their full applications over the coming week. For those, we intend to be making payments in early January. The third grant that I mentioned in the report is the wet pub grant, as it's fondly known. It's the Christmas payment to pubs which are mainly serving drink rather than food, and that was announced literally 2 weeks ago by the Prime Minister on the 1st of December. We got the guidance for that on the 9th of December, and we hope, by dint of an enormous effort, to be ready to invite full applications for that next week. So as you can see, Chair, that there's been a lot to do in a very short time, and that's only the first 3 grants. We have another 2 sets of grants for the Tier 3 period that we're now in, including grants for businesses required to close in Tier 3, and grants for businesses which are open but significantly impacted. And that also is a discretionary payment. And that one we intend, as it says in the report, to model on the relevant aspects of the additional restrictions grant payment, following those same principles. So Chairman, it's the grants picture is very complex, and I think it's worth members appreciating that it is requiring input from staff across the whole council. There is not a single department of the council that is not putting staff towards this initiative. I've got people as well from economic development and finance, internal audit, business transformation, the business support customer care team. We've got revenues team, we've got people from planning, from housing, and from sports development, all working on this at the minute. And we are having to balance the impact on their day jobs, the services which they require as a matter of course, with the need to get these grants out as quickly as possible to businesses. And that's a difficult balance to do, but I think the teams we have are doing an incredible job, and I'd like to thank them, if I may, Chair, tonight, the whole team that's involved in that, the colleagues I have across the whole council for doing that work. But as it says in the report, Chairman, there's a policy for the discretionary restrictions grant, and following that, the open grant that we would ask you to follow. Thank you.
Absolutely, Steve. We got a very good accolade the first time round, did we not, throughout the country on the speed we got these grants out. So I'm sure all staff are doing an excellent job. So I'll move to questions, members. I've already got Councillor Steve Flitter and Mike Ratcliffe showing. If you'll help me out, James, I'll try and keep an eye on the hands up and do my best. So Councillor Flitter first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I've no real concerns about this report. In fact, it is a complex issue, but we've got an excellent team that are handling it. The report itself, I think, is very straightforward. But I do have a question on the recommendations, and that's recommendation 1, which doesn't have an action to it. And I'm wondering whether that should be part of the preamble instead of a recommendation.
Could you answer that, please, Steve?
Yes, Councillor Flitter has spotted a typo, which is entirely my fault. I think the words "is noted" should have been there, for which I apologise. If members are happy to take that as the word "is noted" added to that, I'd be very grateful. Thank you, Councillor Flitter.
I'd noticed it as well, but being thrust upon the chair, I'd missed raising it. So thank you, Councillor Flitter. So that is noted. Councillor Ratcliffe, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. 2 very simple questions, really. But again, just to echo the words of Steve Capes in his introduction, and indeed, I know Steve Flitter was alluding to this too, that there has been a great deal of dedicated work gone into this, and I think everybody applauds the council as a whole for the way that they've handled this. I think one of the questions, perhaps underlying what I've just said, is has the council actually received any recompense for the work that's undertaken? Has there been sufficient funding to, again, support all the staff that have no doubt had additional duties and time constraints put on them? So that's one question. The first of the more simple ones perhaps is, I noted in the report that town and parish councils have the ability to apply for some funding. Have any PCs in fact sought any funding? And my last question is perhaps something that maybe Steve can't actually answer at this point, but I just wondered, because it's unavoidable in a sense, does he happen to know how many Derbyshire Dale businesses have actually ceased trading as a result of the COVID constraints, despite the fact that we have had this ability to pass out grants, support grants?
Can you answer those, Steve? And I might need to bring Paul in to answer the broader question on what monies the authorities received so far. So can you go first, please, Steve?
Yeah, I can, Chair, and in fact, thanks to Karen, I'm aware that specifically in relation to paying out business grants, we are due tomorrow to receive a payment of £76,500 in new burdens grant, and that is there to fund our expenses dealing with the current set of 5 or more business grants, and also the business grants that we dealt with over the summer as well. So that is intended to go for things like software and temporary staff and any other staff costs such as overtime and so on that might be necessary to pay for that. As I say, we've met those costs ourselves over the summer, but finally they've now come the 18th of December. They're due to give some money to us. It's due to arrive in our accounts tomorrow, alongside the next lot of money we've got to pay out to businesses as well. Chairman, with regard to town and parish councils, I'm not aware. I'm sorry, Councillor Ratcliffe, if any have applied at the current time. I haven't been through the applications to date. We've had for the as I say, over 900 applications for the first set of local restrictions grant. We're expecting a similar number for the additional restrictions grant, the discretionary one. But the actual nature of who they are and where they're from don't know yet. That's something we hope to get back to in the longer term, when we do have the time and space to report back on how all this has gone.
Forgive me for interrupting, Steve, but I don't have any direct connection with the town council. I'm no longer a member of the town, works with town council, but do they all know about this?
Chairman, they may not all know about it, partly because we're only actually going live with the ARG at this moment. So publicity for that hasn't been done yet. However, the local restrictions grant, the mandatory grant, has been widely publicised by the government and on our website and by others. I think the thing I would point anyone to is the website, and which has got the guidance as to what is and is not eligible for these grants. They're mandatory grants, the local restrictions grant. They are mandatory, but they're only for certain types of businesses in certain circumstances. With regard to your wider question, Councillor Ratcliffe, in terms of the impact on the Derbyshire Dales, in terms of the numbers of businesses that may have been impacted, don't know any details of that, I'm afraid. That's something that we will get a better idea on as things pan out over the coming months. The Chamber of Commerce do a quarterly, in fact they do a weekly survey, but a quarterly reports on how business is doing over the region, and on the whole, they say that businesses are at the moment holding up relatively well, but that does not broken down for the Derbyshire Dales as such. My opinion, if I were to hazard one, would be that because we have a preponderance of hospitality type businesses and accommodation and leisure, that we may well have been affected, but whether that is affected to the extent of businesses closing or not, I don't know. It's certainly our hope and intention that the grants we paid out over the spring and summer, and the grants that we're facilitating now, and the business advice that we provide to companies as well, and by supporting other organisations such as Marketing Peak District, that we give businesses the best possible chance to make a good fist of it during these difficult times.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your answers, and please pass on congratulations to everybody who's been involved in this.
Thank you very much, Steve. Paul, is there anything you wish to add, anything further?
No, Chair, I think Steve's covered all of the main points there. Just to re-emphasise the fact, we have received additional burdens grant, but we have done all of this with our own staff, but it has had an impact on the organisation and continues to be so.
As a matter of interest, members, myself and all the leaders in Derbyshire, together with the County Council leader, wrote to the Prime Minister appealing to go into Tier 2. Obviously, we're not. We're staying in Tier 3. But the final paragraph was appealing for help for the hospitality sector. And Sarah Dines MP raised this matter in Parliament yesterday. Councillor Slack, you've got a question, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Steve, and thank you for all the staff, all the additional work they're doing. It's tremendous. Thank you very much. Just looking on page 7, it's £1,000, isn't it, the grant for when they close a pub? Are they usually, doesn't matter what size, whether they're large pubs or small pubs, or it's just a one-off grant, is it?
Chair, yes, that's correct. It's a flat rate one-off grant of £1,000 to be applied for from now on and to be paid by the end of February.
And our food restaurants very similar, whereas small cafes different to a bit large restaurant.
So Chair, the government has specified in this case it's for what they call wet-led pubs, i.e. pubs that are more than 50% of their income is based on sales of drink.
Yeah.
And they have said it's pubs as opposed to cafes and other types of businesses. So they have been generous but fairly strict with their criteria as well.
Yeah, just to mention, we're on the parish council. We've not heard anything about any grants. We had a meeting on Monday, so I've not heard a thing. So, and we have a caretaker, but she's carrying on working at social distancing, so won't apply to us. Yeah, thank you.
Chairman, in the new year, we'll make sure we will need to do more publicity to pick up any organisations and businesses that haven't applied, and we'll make sure that parishes do get copied into that as well, Chairman.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much, Steve. I've no other members showing hand up for questions. I'll just give you a minute if you want to. No, in that case, I'll move to debate. So, Councillor Hobson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm more than happy to move recommendations 1 to 3. You've only got to read through this comprehensive report and listen to what Steve said tonight to see the work that's been undertaken by staff at the District Council during this very difficult time of the pandemic. The various grants have been administered at very short notice to the businesses of the Derbyshire Dales, and I would like to pay tribute to all the staff involved with this, many of which have all been redeployed from their usual duties. I thank them all and wish all our businesses in the Derbyshire Dales our very good wishes for the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Michelle Morley.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it does. And I'd just like to add a couple of points. Dr. Capes, what a sterling job everybody has done. We've all heard the words learning curve and paradigm shift, but this is unprecedented. Thank you to yourself, Steve, and to your teams, and also for the sensitivity that has been afforded to the businesses in terms of the quick and rapid response of payments for their hopefully for their survival. I think it also shows that we as an authority are committed and determined to help our residents as much as we can. I too saw our MP Sarah Dines in the House yesterday, and she spoke very eloquently about the Derbyshire Dales. Although we're not in tier 2 now, I'll reserve judgment on that, but she did try her best, and I think it's brilliant that we are continuing to receive monies to help the businesses. And then finally, as well, I have had some of my own conversations with local residents who are in business, and they are fully appreciative of the help that they're getting from the authority. So I'm more than happy to second this, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Morley. I've got 2 hands up for debate. First, Councillor Allison, please, then Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that it was really interesting reading the equality impact assessment that was one of the attachments to this report. First one I've seen, and it's great to see it being used and presented to councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was just going to second the motion, but may I, on personal, thank you to all the staff who have done such a fantastic job over these months. Congratulations to you all. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member wishing to speak before we move to the vote? No, in that case then, Jason, can we move to the vote, please? It's been moved and seconded, all 3 recommendations as per your agenda paper. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Archer.
For.
Councillor Buttle.
For.
Councillor Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Elliott. Oh, no, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Flitter.
For.
Councillor Hill.
For.
Councillor Hobson.
For.
Councillor Morley.
For.
Councillor Purdy.
For.
Councillor Ratcliffe.
For.
And Councillor Slack.
For.
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. That's been moved. Thank you very much, members. So if you could bring Councillors Bull and Donnelly back into the room then, please.
Yeah, we're now at agenda item 5.
Oh, I'm going to tell. I thought you were going to tell me you'd finished.
Chris. Hand over to you then, Sue.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Purdy, taking that on. Okay, item 5, the corporate enforcement policy. Lee, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair. Yes, members, this is a general review of our corporate enforcement policy. It's always very good practice to undertake reviews of policies, at least on a 3-year basis. I've had a chance to review the policy and fundamentally rewritten, but generally keeping the same sort of principles involved. The aim of the policy is to inform members of the public what they expect from the council in their enforcement processes and the types of decisions and what factors will weigh against enforcement action or against. It takes into account the government guidance for regulators code and the code of Crown prosecution. So that's all been incorporated. So this is a general update of our corporate enforcement policy. I've also sought a delegation for my manager, James McLaughlin, to have the power to make minor amendments to this policy. When I reviewed the current corporate, corporate enforcement policy, it referred to posts of directors that no longer existed. So the main issue here is that I seek a delegation to make minor amendments that won't affect the overall issue of the policy, for say if job titles change or there's a restructuring, who's responsible for various functions, so that we're not bringing those back to members if anything changes or if there's any case law that says that we need to take different things into consideration. So to seek a general delegation for the director to make those minor changes. Of course, if there's any changes that make a fundamental change to the corporate enforcement policy, then of course it would be brought back to members. So unless members have any questions, I would ask if those 2 resolutions are approved.
Thank you, Lee, for that. Councillor Flitter, question?
Yeah, just to say that again, it's another good report and pretty straightforward. Doesn't leave room for much debate. But I do just ask about the first paragraph of the council will. And I take that paragraph about helping people understand and comply with the legislation and so forth, and look at the outcomes that would make them compliant. In another life, I used to work rear of house, many restaurants and hotels in the area. And I got another feeling from the staff there on the work done by the council. And at the time, I happened to be chair of environmental health, so it didn't go down too well. But you do have to work with these people. And I'm just thinking that is very intensive labour and work for somebody in these difficult times. How are we going to manage that? And do we set any timescales? Or, I mean, it can be very involved for people to look at other people's operations and discuss where they can be made compliant. And I look at the criteria that we work to, and that is very good. But what does worry me, that on the prosecution, it does state on the first line that the conviction, we only prosecute where a conviction is likely to result in a significant sentence. That worries me, that there's a lot of leeway, and it's like planning, if you like. We're always told about going to appeal and what we could lose. Is there a risk of this? Can we manage this? And what other options are open to us for minor offences? Because I think they should be told and should be steered towards the policies. But I don't want this threat hanging over the officers that unless they can come out with a severe sentence, they can't go ahead and make any recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I can understand where you're coming from, Councillor Flitter. It's generally what this comes back to is going the Code of Crown Prosecution that you shouldn't, and also the government guidance. Generally, what the government guidance is, especially they're looking at businesses, that you don't want to be prosecuting businesses unless they've made serious errors. You should be educating them and encouraging them into compliance. So the issue about the severe prosecution or the severe sentence, of course, every case will be looked at on its merits, but there are issues you could offer cautions rather than actually a prosecution. So it's generally weighing up, is it in the public interest to prosecute, say, a business where you're only going to get a very minor fine for something that actually you could get the same result through education and monitoring. Of course, if you end up with a situation where even though it's maybe not a minor fine or a minor penalty, but it's because of constant breaches and ignoring them, then that would weigh against taking legal action. But it's an issue of the general guidance is you shouldn't be running to court. You should be trying to get compliance through other means, and that's where that sort of provision is aiming at.
Does that answer your concerns, Councillor Flitter?
It does to some respect, Chair. But have we got the staff that can actually spend the time there? That's what I really want to know as well, because it is very involved.
We have a full team of environmental protection officers, a full team of planners that go about these duties, and once they liaise with the legal team on various issues and the discussions on whether or not to take a prosecution take place. So I know that regular monitoring is undertaken by both of those departments and from other departments as well, and we will have the resources, if it's considered in the public interest, to take a prosecution to do that.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Allison, did you have a question?
Yeah, sort of, I think. I had one about what the potential editorial changes might be, what examples, but I think Lee's already given us that. The thing about those changes is that normally policy documents that I'm familiar with would have a cover sheet that shows any amendments that are made and when they were made and who made them. Is that something that happens with policy documents at the council?
I do intend, if this policy is approved, what I would put is a paragraph at the bottom that says version 1 approved by council, and then if there's any subsequent changes, that would then be dated in the box. So I can clearly add that into the bottom of the policy, and also if it comes up to a review every 3 years to show that it's been properly reviewed. So if you would prefer that, councillors, I can add that onto the bottom of the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Allison. Councillor Knight Ratcliffe, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question really is like a supplementary to that of Councillor Flitter, but I think it's a very important area of concern that he raised, and I'd like to restate it, even though I suspect that Lee will give a similar answer. And I'll do that if the Chair will indulge me, just to have a very short preamble.
Can we have the question and then we'll have the preamble when we come to debate?
Well, it won't be a preamble if I give you the question.
No, well, let's have the question.
I'll certainly do that.
Well, let's have a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll be very, very direct then. I think, despite the fact that these amendments strengthen the enforcement policy, I think that there will be a continuation of the lack of resources that rather takes away from enforcement, and in particular in the area of planning, that has suffered and has been openly shown on a number of
occasions to be lacking in finance and resource to have a level of monitoring and indeed to further the enforcement that might be required as a result. So it does seem to me that whilst we need policies like this in place, we also need at some point to give attention to the resources to buttress and give teeth, if you like, to policies such as this, and particularly in the area of planning, as I say. But I know it's used quite widely in areas like environmental health, etc.
Lee, so again, I believe this is going down to the resource side of it.
Yes. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor. I can't really comment on the resources of other departments. I can say that the prosecutions are taken very seriously by the legal team and reviewed with our fellow officers when it comes to an issue of whether or not enforcement action is taken or not. And I will always make sure that the resources from the legal team are there to take a prosecution that is justified, as I believe that is very important, that we put teeth to any sort of enforcement action and enforcement monitoring we are taking. I hope that sort of answers your question in some way.
I know it's difficult, so, you know, I go along with what you're saying.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillor Butler, please. No, Buttle, Neil. Councillor Neil Butler.
Hello there. Yes, Lee. I was looking at these offences, and one of them was an action with an attempt to defraud the public purse was something to be taken very seriously. I'm not quite sure that that's actually more serious than an action to defraud a member of the public. And in point 4 on the common public interest factors, would you count defrauding a member of the public as a damage or disturbance? Or would we just kind of let that pass, but consider our money to be more important?
Councillor, how I've sort of viewed this, especially that councils and other public bodies are given money in order to benefit the whole community. Now, if someone's trying to attack those resources, which, as you well know, through going through budget is very limited, that has a major knock-on to effect of the type of services and support that various government and public bodies give to the whole community. When it comes to defrauding an individual, yes, we would take that instantly more serious as well, but you have to look at every case on the same aspects. If someone had defrauded a member of the public but then tried to make amends and put that right, then that might negate against whether or not the council would want to take action. Or if it's a defrauding a large number of the members of the public, if it falls within our remit, of course, but defrauding the public is very unlikely to fall into a small district councils type of area, then of course that would weigh again towards taking action. It's just saying that if someone is trying to take money out of the public purse, that we would deem that serious because of the knock-on effect it has to the services ourselves and other public bodies can provide the community as a whole.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. I agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Okay, I've seem to have exhausted questions, so I'd like to move to debate. So do I find a proposer for the recommendations, please?
I propose, Chair.
Councillor Donnelly, thank you.
I'm quite happy to second that, if that's
I'm
okay.
happy to second as well. Oh, right, okay.
Councillor Neil Buttle, I'll take you a sec. Would you like to make any more comments?
No, I've looked at it and I think it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Are there anybody else wishing to make any comments on this proposal? Then with that, I would like to go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Archer.
For.
Councillor Bowl.
For.
Councillor Bottle.
For.
Councillor Chapman.
4.
Councillor Donnelly.
4.
Councillor Flitter.
4.
Councillor Hill.
4.
Councillor Hobson.
4.
Councillor Morley.
4.
Councillor Purdy.
4.
Councillor Ratcliffe.
4.
And Councillor Slack.
4.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So that is carried. Thank you.
Chair, may I just make a comment if you give me a bit of indulgence? I want to thank Lee because he's attended last night and tonight during what should have been his annual leave. And I think that is true dedication to duty. So thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
And then from all members, then we echo the same, as to all the staff that put in the efforts that they do. Right, we'll move on to item 6, the Local Government Ethical Standards Review by Committee of Standards in Public Life. I believe that's James.
It is. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. This report submitted to provide you with an update on how the Council's ethical standards framework compares with best practice recommendations from the Committee on Standards in Public Life. It's intended that this update will form the basis of our response to the Local Government Association in respect of how we've responded to the recommendations from the CSPL. Page 67 in your agenda details our position against those best practice recommendations, but if you indulge me for a moment, I'll just take you through the specific recommendations that require your consideration this evening. So the first is to recommend an amendment to the general obligations section of the Member Code of Conduct to include definitions for bullying and harassment and provide examples of unacceptable behaviours, as well as providing clarification on the expectations on councillors who participate in the complaints process. Subject to members agreeing this, it's also recommended that the protocol on member officer relations be amended to reflect that reference to bullying and harassment, so there is consistency between the code and the protocol. It's also recommended that the Code of Conduct's provisions in respect of gifts and hospitality be amended to clarify the requirement to notify the monitoring officer of the acceptance of gifts and hospitality. Furthermore, it's proposed that members will be reminded annually to update their gifts and hospitality entries as part of the annual review of members' register of interests. And just reflecting on the previous meeting, Chair, this will take place at the same time that members are required to make their annual third-party declarations, which of course we picked up in the audit item at the last meeting. It's also proposed that a checklist is introduced to form the basis of the initial assessment procedure that's followed by the monitoring officer and the independent person when considering allegations. The checklist, as referred to within the report, will reflect best practice from the Standards Commissioner for Northern Ireland. Finally, Chair, it will be my intention to submit an annual report in respect of Code of Conduct complaints received, as well as reviewing the code against best practice and experience in that time. So finally, Chair, the recommendations are submitted to ensure that the authority is considered best practice in terms of our ethical standards framework. I'm sure our members will have questions, so I'll be happy to answer any of those that come forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we move into questions. Do I see anybody wishing to make pushing any questions over to James? No. Okay. So with that, I would like to move on to debate. Do I find a proposer for this?
I propose we accept them, Chair.
Councillor Ratcliffe, thank you. Do I find a seconder? Councillor Morley.
Thank you. I'm very happy to second this this report. It's very detailed. It's and clear, and it really does spell out so many different aspects, all needed. A comprehensive report. Happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else? Councillor Ratcliffe, would you like to make any comments?
No, other than again, it's a very good and very necessary report, particularly at this time, as it were, when there were so many things going on, as it were, and You know, it's important that we do regulate ourselves, and we are shown to be open, transparent and democratic. And I pick up from the report that that's exactly what we're doing, but it's good to have that report that confirms this.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Ratley. Councillor Allison, do you wish to make a comment?
I do actually, yeah. I think I read through it, and there was just one paragraph that kind of jumped out at me. Really, it was that an ethical culture will be an open culture. Local authorities should welcome and foster opportunities for scrutiny, and I think that just kind of reinforced to me, because I mean, basically they're saying that's a good way to improve decision making. So while I think some people may mistake scrutiny for challenge, I believe that when you make good decisions, they should be able to stand up to scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's an excellent report, and it's deadly accurate. We hear a lot about bullying recently with the Home Secretary, the investigation into the Home Secretary's conduct. Thank goodness it doesn't happen here on the District Council. I think we should respect the officers, and by all means, and never in any way try to influence and bully people. So I think one of the councillors' first thing is respect. Respect one another and respect the officers, very much so. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't seem to see anybody else making any wish to make any more comments, so I would like to move to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Allison.
4.
Councillor Archer.
4.
Councillor Ball.
4.
Councillor Bottle.
4.
Councillor Chapman.
4.
Councillor Donnelly.
4.
Councillor Flitter.
4.
Councillor Hill.
4.
Councillor Hobson.
4.
Councillor Morley.
4.
Councillor Purdy.
4.
Councillor Ratcliffe.
4.
Councillor Slack.
4.
It's unanimous, Chair.
And we take that forward. Thank you, everybody, for that. Okay, we move on to, I keep saying item 7, but there isn't an item 7. I've been conned here. Item 8, revenues and benefit services and invoice processing contract. I believe we're moving into Karen here.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Hopefully this report's self-explanatory. It's reminding members that the current contract for revenues and benefits and invoice processing with the Varto is about to come to an end in January, and outlining to you the steps we're taking to ensure that services continue after that date. With regard to invoice processing, that's the payments made to our suppliers and the team that deal with invoicing our customers. Members approved last year that those 2 services will be brought back in-house. 2 employees are coming back to the council. They were originally employed by the council, transferred to Varto, and now they're coming back again. And their transfer is being undertaken under 2P arrangements. We've been meeting with them weekly for the last 6 weeks, myself, the HR manager, and colleagues from Varto, to smooth that transition, and everything's going well. The consultation concluded this morning. We're also recruiting 2 part-time posts to assist them when they come back. The assistance before was provided by posts that were shared with Chesterfield, and those have been retained by Chesterfield. With regard to the revenues and benefits service, members agreed that that should be provided in the future under a service level agreement with Chesterfield Borough Council. The draft service level agreement's almost completed, and I'm asking in this report for delegated authority so that that can be signed by the Director of Corporate and Customer Services. That's James. The governance arrangements for the service with Chesterfield Borough Council are set out in the report in paragraph 223. They propose that on the strategic board, there should be one member from each council. And for Derbyshire Dales District Council, I'm recommending that should be the chair of this committee, and that that role should go with the chairmanship and not be tied to an individual person. In the event of a dispute where the two members from each council and officers might be at loggerheads, what we propose is to bring in an independent person, one of the independent persons from either of the authorities to resolve that dispute. And we hope that will never arise, but it's in the agreement just in case. In paragraph 2.4 of the report, you can see that the overall cost of the new service or the two services is expected to be around £55,000 less than the current service. But a lot of the management relating to the current service has been retained by Chesterfield Borough Council, because the posts spent more time on Chesterfield Borough Council than Derbyshire Dales work, so they retain them. So it will be necessary to strengthen the management arrangements within the financial services team. And I'd also like to do that to give increased resilience. So I plan to take a report to Council in January to address those issues. I'd finally just like to thank Lee Gardner, the Legal Services Manager, who's here, and Deborah Unwin, the Head of HR, for their hard work in helping with these issues over the last 6 months to bring this to fruition. I just ask members to approve the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, please? Then with that, I would like to move into debate. Do I find a proposer, please?
Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendations. Some of us older councillors will remember this issue some time ago and expressing concern about the move from Avato to Chesterfield Borough Council. So it is really pleasing to see and hear from Karen how well it's working, and also to bring two staff back into the fold. So I hear what you say, Karen. I look forward to the report in January, when hopefully members will approve bolstering your hard work department. So I'll move the recommendations, Chair.
I'll second that, Chair.
Councillor Slack,
Yeah.
Would you like to make any comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a very excellent report again, Karen, and I'm pleased that part of it's been brought back in-house, and working with Chesterfield seems to be very successful. So yes, I'm pleased to second this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glitter.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Again, we've had tonight 4 very clear, concise reports, which can all be supported and hope unanimously. I think the work that's gone into tonight's meeting is well appreciated. It doesn't leave room for many questions, and I wish everybody well for Christmas.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Hobson.
Chair, I was just going to say what Councillor Flittered said. We've had excellent reports this evening. As Karen said, the last one is self-explanatory. So thank you very much.
Is there anybody wishing to make any more comments?
If I may, Chair, before we close the meeting, it's been an extraordinary, probably awful year.
Sorry, Gary, do you mind? Can we just do that summing up? Because I'd like to just go to the vote. Sorry.
Okay, sorry about the vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. Recommendations in front of us. I'd like to go to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Archer.
For.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Bottle. For. Councillor Chapman.
For.
Councillor Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Flitter.
For.
Councillor Hill.
For.
Councillor Hobson.
For.
Councillor Morley.
For.
Councillor Purdy,
4,
Councillor Ratcliffe,
4,
and Councillor Stack.
4.
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, well, we soon managed to fly through that. So I will take you back down to Councillor Purdy.
Sorry for jumping the gun, Chair.
No.
I just want to say to everyone, it's been, as we know, an awful year, and that's an understatement. But obviously there are many more families that have suffered far more than we have. And we think about the sad loss of many people in this country through COVID. So I just want to say and take this opportunity to wish you all a very Merry Christmas to you and your families, and look forward to a better and hopefully healthier and COVID-free year. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to just wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and we look forward to continuing our work on this. And I would like to thank all officers for preparing all these reports. They are very, and it's nice to hear that they're that concise and that we don't warrant many questions, which is great. We can get into the debate and move on. That's the whole idea of this, I must say. So I do wish you all a Merry Christmas. I do believe Councillor Morley, would you like to make a
It's just one little thing that I hope will make people smile. My little grandson on the phone this morning said, Grandma, you have to believe that Father Christmas is magic. So let's hope everything becomes magic for us all. So take care and happy Christmas. Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Everybody.
Happy Christmas.
With that,
everyone.
we can close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Yeah.